Okay, Megafault is actually the last, well, from whatever, it's the last television performance for Brittany Murphy. She plays a seismologist, and this essentially has to do with what some refer to as the big one. Essentially, it's a giant earthquake that's going to set off other faults along its path, constantly gain in energy and intensity, and essentially kind of crack the United States in half. So the bulk of this movie is actually them trying to stop the earthquake and the earthquake destroying land like what earthquakes do. Ironically, you have Brittany Murphy, the guy who played Senator Kelly in the X-Men movies. You also have Green Arrow from Smallville. You've got people who aren't at like, as well as Eric LaSalle. So you have people who not at like the real epitome of acting, but you've got some fairly solid actors. And this one actually is a pretty decent movie. Effects-wise, it's not that bad, which is bizarre for being a sci-fi movie. The earthquake looks pretty good. The devastation works for being low budget. Ironically, they seem to have the most amount of problems when it comes to trucks, helicopters, and airplanes. An earthquake destroying its way through cities, like going from like straight through Kentucky and just leveling buildings, and even going out to where the Grand Canyon's at, and just ground crumbling everywhere, buildings being destroyed, falling on top of themselves, explosions. Explosions are done fairly well. And then all of a sudden you see like a helicopter that is obviously done CG. Or a plane. So things that you should be able to do fairly easily if you have a degree and a background in doing CGI were kind of difficult and not done very well, but the parts that seem to be most difficult are actually done relatively well. So how do they stop this earthquake? I'll be honest, I give them some amazing props for this. Their plan to stop the earthquake is to hit it with a second earthquake, to disperse the seismic energy, and if that doesn't work, the second earthquake should drive it into the Grand Canyon, and the Grand Canyon's opening should be enough to absorb enough of the seismic energy and stop the earthquake. That's fairly inventive. It's an earthquake. It's just getting bigger and badder and badder and badder and badder. It's eventually going to crack the United States in half. What are we going to do? We need a second one. Alright, where? I think if we do here, if it doesn't stop it, if it diverts it, it's going to go through uninhabited areas and it's going to go over here. Much less loss of life as opposed to going straight through California. If not, if it does this and it goes this way, it'll go to the Grand Canyon, it should stop it, or this should take all the energy and stop it right there. That actually comes out fairly well thought out. Normally it's like, oh no, it's an angry storm god. What are you going to do? Let's launch a nuclear weapon at it. So you want to nuke a storm cloud. Yeah, that'll get rid of it. No, using an earthquake to divert the seismic energy of another earthquake, from a sci-fi standpoint, that's actually not that bad. It's actually a pretty solid movie to watch, all things considered. Which is weird for a sci-fi movie, but they actually took actors, and enough of them, who are decent enough at acting that the roles come off, at the very least, credible, and at the same time also comprehensive. It actually seems like these actually are these people. And that is Megafault.